If confidence were that simple, everyone would have it. So let's talk about conscious and unconscious, the conscious and unconscious mind. This is what I would tell my clients when they would come into the office and we do a hypnotherapy session. So the conscious mind, unconscious mind, think of it in terms of an iceberg. Okay? So the conscious mind, the logical, rational, reasoning part of the mind, is above the surface of the water. And everything below the surface is the unconscious mind. So the conscious mind is only maybe that 10%, 8%, some would say even less above the surface. Everything else is in the unconscious mind. The conscious mind, like I say, is that rational, logical side. But the unconscious mind is the area that controls behavior. When we're first born and we're newborns and we're just rolling around, all we have is an unconscious mind. We're totally unconscious. And we're just taking in things, and I sometimes call them good things, bad things, pluses, minuses, and we just learn from those behaviors. The classic example would be something like if you're, let's say you're a couple of years old and you're walking over to the burner on the stove and it's lit and you go, hey, that's interesting, and you're walking over and you're about to touch it, and maybe you touch it and you get burned, right? So in your mind, at an unconscious level, you're like, burners bad, or touching burners are bad, or maybe you don't touch it, but you're about to, and your parent goes, stop, and maybe gets mad at you, but then you're, oh, okay. And you learn that way that touching a burner when it's on, when it's red, or when you see the fire, if it's gas, that's bad. You've learned something at an unconscious level, possibly painfully at an unconscious level. And you learn these things up into around 7 or 8 years old when the conscious mind starts developing. So you may have had experiences with respect to being confident, with respect to being confident around women by maybe watching your father or watching other men. And maybe you, because you weren't dating at that time, but maybe you see their reactions or what they're doing to try to win the affections of the opposite sex. And you're taking these things in at an unconscious level, these knowns, these beliefs at an unconscious level. And then you get a little bit older, and let's say you're in your teens and you're dating, and maybe you ask a girl out on a date and she again laughs at you or doesn't even do anything, but you read into it like, oh, she must not like me because whatever, and she could be terrified, and you just pick that up as she's not attractive. So you think, oh, well, women just don't like me because the one person that you thought didn't like you and she was just scared anyway, and you just internalize it, and that's a negative in your unconscious mind. And now you feel the feels of fear or embarrassment whenever you approach women you're attracted to. So you build these patterns over the years, right? And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about dating confidence, confidence when it comes to relationships, when it comes to being around women you're attracted to. And the thing is, attraction and being confident are not conscious or logical processes because you can learn all the techniques. That's why techniques don't really work. Techniques, pickup lines, whatever. Why they don't work is because that's all up here. You're still totally nervous walking up and you're sweating and everything's horrible and your heart's going and you just look a mess, right? But you got this great pickup line that you're just not delivering well because you're not feeling it, you're not embodying it because of everything in the unconscious mind, which is also the body. Our unconscious minds are our body as well. So that's what it is. So knowing, in fact, sometimes knowing what to do, having the information can make it worse because intellectually, like, oh, I've got this intellectually, and you go up and you just screw it all up and you think you've failed and you're, because you're analytical probably and you're logical and you're intelligent, you're rethinking things and you're replaying it and it's getting worse and it's compounding and snowballing effect and everything's getting horrible because it's here. Move it down. That's what you have to do for being confident, is just get out of your head, get more into your body. What helps with confidence? You can say confidence or courage. What helps with it is, one, just taking more action. Because you have these negatives in your unconscious mind. I often say unconscious mind, but I use my body because that's where it is. And you have to get past that by taking action. Action breeds confidence. action breeds courage. Courage is not doing something when you're not afraid. Courage is doing something when you are afraid. You take action when you are afraid, so that eventually you do it enough that you kind of loosen up these unconscious beliefs. You can also change them through things like hypnosis, through changing the unconscious processes, unconscious beliefs. You get that more conscious response, the conscious response you want, because you're unconsciously being the type of man who naturally attracts women. Because, as I say, confidence doesn't come from advice. It comes from changing what's at the unconscious level of your being.